because I didn't want to be just used as.
Melissa Sue Anderson never wanted to reopen the wounds of Little House on the Prairie until now. At 63, she finally breaks a silence that lasted nearly half a century, revealing the complicated truth behind her relationship with Karen Grassle, the woman America once believed was everyone's perfect frontier mother. Anderson says age brought clarity, but her tone suggests something deeper. Years of watching, remembering, and finally understanding what she couldn't as a child star caught between powerhouse personalities. She describes Grassle not with bitterness, but with a kind of awe mixed with regrets she never admitted before. Yet even in her praise, there's an undercurrent of something unspoken. Something she hints was quietly happening behind the scenes while the world saw only innocence, bonnets, and prairie sunsets. And what Melissa reveals next about Grassle and Michael Landon changes everything viewers thought they knew. Karen Grassle was never meant to be a background figure, not in life, and certainly not on Little House on the Prairie. Melissa Sue Anderson now admits she didn't fully grasp Grassle's presence until much later, but even as a child, she sensed Karen carried herself with a quiet gravity that no one else on set possessed. Grassle arrived with a Shakespearean pedigree, a classical actress suddenly thrown into a frontier world of long shooting days, creative power struggles, and the unpredictable emotional climate Michael Landon often generated. Yet she never cracked. Melissa recalls how Karen's discipline fascinated her. She didn't just play Ma, she built her. Behind the scenes, Grassle was fighting a different battle, a battle for dignity in an industry that often demanded quiet submission from women. While others saw a serene pioneer mother, Melissa saw flickers of weariness behind Karen's eyes, and although she couldn't decode them then, she can now. Anderson hints that Grassle's struggles weren't merely professional. They were personal, internal, and at times painful. And this is where the story tightens, because Karen wasn't fighting alone. There was another presence shaping everything, even when he wasn't in the room. Michael Landon was a star, yes, but on the set of Little House, he was a force. Melissa Sue Anderson speaks about him today with a mixture of admiration and caution, as though naming him still carries weight. Landon was charming, brilliant, driven, and volatile. What he wanted, he pursued relentlessly. What he disliked, he dismissed entirely, and every cast member, including Grassle, felt that gravity. Melissa remembers days when Landon's intensity electrified the set, pushing the show to emotional heights that made it a television legend. But she also remembers days when that same intensity shifted into tension so thick even the youngest actors felt it. As a kid, she says, you don't know why people are quiet, but you know when something's wrong. Grassle and Landon respected each other, but they often clashed over creative choices. Melissa recalls overhearing snippets, tones, not words of arguments in dressing rooms or at the edge of shooting locations. She didn't understand them then. Now she understands they were battles for representation, for fairness, for the dignity of a woman playing one of the most iconic mothers in American television. And the most surprising part? Grassle never let Melissa see the full storm. She shielded her in ways Melissa never recognized until now. Melissa Sue Anderson was the opposite of a Hollywood rebel. She didn't throw tantrums, didn't demand attention, didn't chase the spotlight. She observed, silently, carefully, and that made her better at noticing things than people realized. But it also meant she carried burdens no child should. Playing Mary Ingalls wasn't just a role, it was responsibility. She was the emotional backbone of the family, expected to deliver dramatic intensity far beyond her years. Melissa recalls the strain of the blindness storyline, the pressure to make it believable, the weight of adult expectations. And in the middle of all that pressure, she was watching the adults around her struggle with their own unseen battles. What Melissa now reveals is how isolated she often felt, caught between Landon's creative power and Grassle's quiet perseverance. She felt loyalty to Landon, who gave her life-changing opportunities, but she felt drawn toward Grassle's stillness, which offered safety when the set felt too loud. Yet Melissa never told Grassle this. "I kept everything inside," she admits. "I was a child trying to make adults proud." Her silence created distance, but it also preserved something far more meaningful, because Grassle never blamed her. The beauty of Little House is that it radiated warmth. But Melissa now reveals that warmth often came from actors who were hiding their own vulnerabilities. The tension between Grassle and Landon was real, though never explosive enough to leak into tabloids. Melissa describes it as a quiet tug of war, with each trying to defend their vision of what the show should be. Landon wanted tight control. Grassle wanted emotional truth. Melissa says she could sense when Grassle returned from conversations with Landon, her smile slightly thinner, her energy dimmer, her patience stretched. Yet she always refocused, always delivered a performance so steady it anchored the entire cast. The tension had ripple effects. Some days the set felt electric. Other days it felt fragile, like the wrong word could ruin a scene before it began. Melissa absorbed all of it, storing those memories for decades until she could finally articulate what they meant. But what fascinates viewers today is not the conflict itself, it's what Grassle did with it. She never lashed out, never gossiped, never tried to recruit allies. That wasn't her way. Instead, she kept showing up, kept acting, kept mothering in character even when real life felt less nurturing. And Melissa sees that heroism now. For years, fans have speculated about Melissa Sue Anderson's relationship with Karen Grassle. Were they distant? Did they dislike each other? Was something broken between them? At last, Melissa answers, and the truth is far more human than the rumors ever suggested. "We weren't enemies," she says. "We were separate." Melissa was a child surrounded by peers. Grassle was an adult navigating complex workplace politics while carrying emotional and professional burdens. Their worlds simply didn't merge. They existed side by side, but not together. Melissa admits she rarely approached Grassle, not out of fear or dislike, but because she didn't know how to bridge the gap between a quiet child star and a seasoned performer. And Grassle, who was already managing tension with Landon, likely felt it wasn't her place to push into Melissa's inner world. But the distance created misunderstandings. People assumed coldness. Melissa now rejects that interpretation completely. Karen wasn't cold. She was focused, reserved, but deeply protective in ways I didn't see until years later. And that revelation leads directly into the heart of Melissa's confession. What Melissa Sue Anderson reveals now is something she wishes she had said 40 years earlier. She is grateful, deeply, quietly, profoundly, for Karen Grassle. She credits Grassle for teaching her lessons she didn't understand until adulthood: professionalism, endurance, integrity, and how a woman carries herself when the world tries to reduce her to something smaller. Melissa recalls moments when Grassle's presence alone steadied her moments she never acknowledged at the time. A reassuring look during a tough emotional scene, a gentle correction delivered without judgment, a silence that communicated safety when the adults around them were tense. "You get older," Melissa says, "and you start counting the people who shaped you without ever asking for anything in return." Karen was one of those people. Grassle didn't just play a mother. She mothered in subtle ways, ways Melissa failed to recognize through the fog of youth and responsibility. This gratitude is not revisionist. It is earned, it is honest, and it is long overdue. As Melissa stands now at 63, her voice carries a softness that only decades of living can give. She has survived Hollywood, motherhood, loss, reinvention, and time itself. And with all of that lived experience, she finally revisits her memories of Grassle with a fuller heart. She doesn't idolize her. She doesn't excuse the tensions. She doesn't romanticize the past. She simply understands it. Grassle was not perfect, but she was essential. She held the show together in ways the public will never fully appreciate. She protected a generation of young actors simply by being steady in a world that wasn't. And Melissa now acknowledges her as a foundational figure in her growth, both as an artist and as a woman. Melissa ends her reflection with a line that feels like a closing chapter, but also a reopening of something long dormant. "Karen was a cornerstone of the show. I didn't see it then. I see it now. Enazendif. And with that, the unspoken story between Mary Ingalls and Ma finally steps out of the shadows. In the end, Melissa Sue Anderson's long-awaited confession isn't about scandal, bitterness, or the whispered feuds that fans have speculated about for nearly half a century. It is something far more intimate, perspective, the kind that only arrives after a lifetime of victories, heartbreaks, reinventions, and quiet evenings spent wondering whether the past looked different from the inside simply because she was too young to understand it. At 63, Melissa no longer speaks as the composed child star who carefully navigated the emotional crosscurrents of a powerful television set. She speaks as a woman who has lived enough life to finally recognize what she witnessed, what she misunderstood, and what she never felt brave enough to say aloud. Her newfound clarity transforms her memories of Karen Grassle. The revelation she offers is not designed to shock, it is designed to honor. Because Melissa finally sees that Karen was the quiet backbone of a series built on the illusion of simplicity. Viewers saw a warm, steady frontier mother. Karen lived the discipline it took to bring that warmth to life. Audiences saw a calm and gentle presence. Karen endured professional frustrations behind the scenes that never once reached her performance. While families across America fell in love with Ma Ingalls, Melissa now understands the strength of the real woman, the actress who carried private burdens while protecting the youngest members of the cast with patience and withers, grace. There is something deeply universal in Melissa's late-in-life reflection. It reminds us how incomplete our youthful perceptions often are, how we rush to conclusions, overlook nuance, and miss the quiet, essential truths unfolding right beside us. Melissa is not apologizing, she is acknowledging, and her acknowledgement is filled with tenderness, humility, and a gratitude sharpened by time. Her words pull back the curtain on a truth many fans never considered. Little House was not only a wholesome frontier dream, it was a real workplace filled with ego, artistry, pressure, and human imperfection. Through it all, Grassle stood steady, offering a performance so honest and so consistent that she became the emotional anchor of the show. And now, as Melissa finally speaks with honesty rather than caution, she invites us to see Karen Grassle not simply as Ma Ingalls, but as a woman whose quiet strength shaped a generation's memories without ever asking for applause. If you'd like more untold Hollywood stories, more behind-the-scenes truths, and more deep dives into the legends you grew up with, make sure you like this video, leave a comment with the star you want us to reveal next, and subscribe so you never miss the next chapter in our journey through classic Hollywood's hidden history. The next revelation might just surprise you, and it's coming soon.